What is the smallest thing in the world? The ancient Greek philosopher Empedocles argued that the world is made up of four elements: water, fire, air, and earth, that neither arise nor pass away. For nearly 2,000 years, this idea has been strongly supported by the majority of scholars in Western science. Meanwhile, Democritus, a Greek philosopher of the same era, argued that the universe is composed of atoms, an indivisible substance, and a vacuum. Democritus' atomism, however, was not supported by the majority of scholars, as he believed that the interior of an atom is completely void of empty space, and is an immutable entity that can never be created or destroyed. Of course, the claims of this era were not objectively proven in a scientific way, but only through philosophical thought. More than 2,000 years later, in 1808, the British scientist Dalton argued for atomism on scientific and experimental grounds, not philosophical ones. It wasn't until modern scientists finally proved the existence of the atom in the laboratory that it was finally recognized. At the time, scientists thought of the atom as the tiniest grain of matter that would eventually split no further. But then it was discovered that the seemingly indivisible atom was composed of a nucleus and electrons. The nucleus was then found to be composed of protons and neutrons, and so on. But this was not the end of the story. When modern scientists studied them again in the laboratory, they were found to be composed of about 300 subatomic particles. They are categorized into mediators of force, such as photons, and elementary particles, such as quarks and leptons, which make up matter. Thanks to the research efforts of many scientists, the Standard Model, which describes 17 types of elementary particles, including quarks, leptons, gauge bosons, and the Higgs, and their interactions, has finally been accepted by the world. This overturned more than 2,000 years of belief that the four elements were the source of all matter and the stuff of which the world is made. But is this really the end of the story? Scientists don't consider the Standard Model to be a complete theory, as it explains the strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces, but still has no explanation for gravity, dark matter, and dark energy. Similarly, modern science is not always able to explain everything when you dig a little deeper. Just as the scientific achievements of the past have been supplemented, inherited, and developed, the achievements of modern science will naturally change over time. Just as the Greek philosopher Democritus' philosophically based theory of the atom was redefined by modern scientists in the laboratory, so too will newer, more innovative theories emerge over time. That's the history of science. Let's use our imagination and assume that as science progresses, we'll discover an infinite number of entities smaller than elementary particles, like peeling an onion. Everything we're going to talk about is based on this assumption. It would make explaining gravity, dark matter, and dark energy much easier and more straightforward. It will not be easy for modern scientists to objectively describe and categorize the properties and characteristics of the tiny beings we will continue to discover. Let's briefly summarize the history of the search for the smallest things in the world. The smallest things have been changing from the four elements: water, fire, air, and earth atoms, nuclei, electrons, protons, and neutrons, quarks, leptons, gauge bosons, and Higgs bosons in the Standard Model. It is predicted that the quarks, leptons, gauge bosons, and Higgs in the Standard Model will continue to split infinitely in the future. The history of science suggests that the smallest entities in the world are always structured in such a way that they can be broken down into smaller pieces than scientists thought at the time, and we believe that this history will continue to repeat itself in the future. If this is true, then the smallest thing in the universe No matter how small we imagine it to be, will already be smaller than that. Still, its size would never reach zero. In other words, its size would be infinitely small as it converges to zero. It is conjectured that the smallest entities in the world are neither particles, waves, nor energy. And their size or nature will never be specified. These infinitesimally tiny beings, acting in an infinite number of cases, create an infinite number of combinations and undergo endless changes, transforming into an infinite variety of beings, with forms and properties that we cannot see, hear, feel, touch, or even identify with modern science. In other words, the size of the smallest thing in the world cannot be specified because it becomes infinitely smaller. Therefore, the laws that apply to it are also constantly changing step by step. And it is impossible to reveal all the laws. However, when the conditions of a particular time and space are met, the laws that are appropriate for that situation are applied. Thank you very much for watching this video.